Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to a new episode of the Pop Punk Paradise podcast. No casual episode because I speak English again, yeah. And today, my co-hosts Jan and Ramona, hello.
Hello there.
And a special guest right next to me here, it is Chris from the Army of Freshmen, hello.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Fine. So, and now, yes, it's great to hear you and see you too. And yes, I hope it will be great. So, Chris, maybe our viewers or listeners don't know you. Can you a little bit describe you and what you do and speak a lot?
You want a little history on Army of Freshmen?
I know the history and I know Army of Freshmen a long time.
God, good. Well, Army of Freshmen started in the late 90s in Ventura, California. I was originally from Cape May, New Jersey. I moved out here when I graduated high school, and I wanted to start a band. Was lucky enough to meet some great people. We started in like 1997. We were very young. We were like 17, 18 years old. And we just kind of, slowly grew and evolved. Our sound was really all over the place when we first started. We were experimenting with a lot of different styles. But we kind of settled on this kind of pop punk with keyboard sound. Mm-hmm. And that's when things really took off for us. That was when the band started to tour and started to get some small indie label deals. And we sort of fell into the pop punk scene in the early 2000s when it was really, really big,
When?
But we never got really big. We were always the band that would open up for the big bands, Mm-hmm. So we very successful, very blessed. We got to tour the world, but we never really crossed over into the mainstream. We'd get a song on the radio for like a day and then it would go away. We never had that real big like label push. Like all the real big pop punk bands were kind of on major labels and they had all that money and that inflection of cash and the big management companies. We were sort of like on the outside. We were very kind of indie, but we were very blessed to open up for a lot of those bands and had some success in England, had a little bit of success in Japan. And right when things are really starting to happen for us, there was that huge financial crash, if you remember that, like around like 2008, where like things just got crazy. And it really devastated us because we were like a middle class band, if that makes sense. We weren't one of the big guys, but we weren't one of the little guys. We were right in the middle. And we were getting ready to sign with a bigger label, and it really looked like all our years of hard work was about to pay off. And then it was just like, boom, overnight, everything stopped for us. I mean, tours went away, the label deal went away, we had a lot of debt. So that slowed us down. I mean, we kept going, but obviously our peak was sort of that, like, 2000 and 2002 to like 2008 was when we were really, really touring a lot. We've toured since then. We did the Get Happy Tour reunion. We had a big reunion, but we took a little break because we're all old guys now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the music world is so different. I'm sure we'll talk all about that. But the world that we came from to the world now, it's night and day, Phil. I mean, like it's a different planet, So we were blessed enough to experience the old music world, but it sort of changed, and I'm very honest about that. I'm not one of those guys that pretends to be like, hey man, we can still hang with the young kids and do 1 million YouTube videos a day and release a single every week. Like, we can't do that, but we're still very much together, and when opportunities present themselves, we still get together and do our thing, but we aren't active anymore like we were a decade ago when it was my entire life, but I'm still very thankful that we can be a band, and still occasionally, we released our first new music earlier this year, and we hadn't released anything in like 7 years. So it was really exciting to release a couple new songs, and we've got a new project that we're working on that I can tell you about. So I wish music was still full-time. It isn't, but sometimes you enjoy it and love it more because it's not a job anymore. You know what I mean? It's something that you do because you have a passion for it. I mean, you guys don't do the Pop Punk Paradise because you're getting rich. You're doing it
we get nothing.
Music, Hey, maybe you are. I don't know.
No, sadly not.
We made jokes about our fans and money, and this describes us very good. But this is another topic.
Actually, I have a little follow-up question. You guys started in 1997. But then, like 4 years later, you got your first contract, and then you were able to play like on a big festival in Japan, in the Supersonic.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
was it? I mean, you were like, okay, we're doing this like in the US, okay, and now out of nothing, it's like a big festival in Japan. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
you want to come to Japan?
I will tell you, great question, because you literally hit on something. I tell people that if heaven is 1 week of your life and you just live it over, if heaven is 1 week of your life and you live it over and over again, like Groundhog Day, you're just stuck in a loop. Yeah. My heaven would be that first tour of Japan. Guys, I'm telling you, it was nothing short of magic. It was like every little kid's fantasy. And you make a good point, because we weren't very big. I have the poster for that festival framed in my bathroom. So if you come to my house one day when you visit me and you go to take a pee, what you will stare at is that poster, and you will know every single band on it. Everybody is famous at the time except for us. And it was like being like, I tell people this story, and this relates because actually it has to do with pop punk. The festival that we went over there, so we were small in the States, we were kind of a little unknown, like you said, and suddenly we're over in Japan on this major festival. And it was when Good Charlotte was at their peak. The year I think was 2003. Now you have to remember, in 2003, Good Charlotte was as big as you got, right? They were on the cover of Rolling Stone in the United States the week that we went over to play with them in Japan. So here we are just wide-eyed kids. We can't believe we're playing with these big bands, and we had a one-off show with Good Charlotte. We didn't know them, we had never played with them, but they're on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
So like I'm reading Rolling Stone on the airplane, right?
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm on an airplane to go play a show with these guys in Japan. I mean, it was just wild. And I tell people, there's so many good stories. I could talk to you for hours about that particular trip. I mean, there's story after story. But I will tell you this one. I remember when we got to the venue, it was like the scene in The Wizard of Oz. We were in black and white, okay? And then all of a sudden, we got ushered through a back. We didn't see the crowd. We didn't see the stage. We got taken through a back hallway. And when that back door to the backstage opened up, suddenly, like the Wizard of Oz, everything was in color. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's rock stars in the hallway. There's catering. There's people trying to carry our instruments and our bags. There's security. And we're just like, this is the coolest thing ever, you know? And that was our first taste of like that different world. And we went on to just have the most magical time. And I remember being very sad because we found out that we were playing after Good Charlotte. So we're thinking, no one's going to stay. Everyone's here to see Good Charlotte. They're super famous. They were very big in Japan. I said, every single person here is going to leave. And a weird thing happened. No one left. We didn't know that we had some popularity over there, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So imagine like thinking that the entire crowd is going to go away. And then all of a sudden you walk out on stage, they're still there, they're rocking out, and they know all the words. It was magic. I mean, it was a night that I'll never forget. And then we went on to play 2 major festivals. So that's what I tell people. It was the greatest week of my life. Your first question was about the greatest week that I ever had. Because even though we did play more great festivals, there's something about that first one. To be completely unknown. And I'll tell you this funny story. Kai was working at a record store, our bass player.
Yeah.
Check this out.
I think I know
that week. Right. We're on cloud 9, but we all have to go back to regular jobs. And Kai's working at a record store, and a guy comes up to the counter, right? And he's got like a Radiohead record and a Good Charlotte record, and Kai goes, an AFI. And Kai's like, oh, I just played with these bands last weekend, right? And the person looks at him and goes, yeah, sure you did.
That's why you're here.
Our life. That is the Army of Freshmen story in a nutshell. For 1 second, we'd have this really cool big moment, and then we just go right back down to reality. And I feel like that's kind of the story of our band. You know, we were always almost there, but because that happened so much, we got to do so much great stuff, man. I mean, even the fact that you guys would care enough to talk to me now all these years later, that means something to me. You know, we had somewhat of an impact, and it's cool. Every once in a while, somebody will reach out and be like, dude, you were my favorite band for 6 months in 2007. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're not your favorite band anymore, but that's cool that we were at one point, you know?
Is this the same hype? Also, you were famous in Japan, and Zebrahead was in Japan famous too, but in California they are not... Huh?
They were massive in Japan. They were Zebrahead, like, there are these cool bands that had more success in other countries. Like, you guys are friends, Bowling for Soup. Bowling for Soup in England exploded. I mean, they were huge. Girl, the Bad Guys Want was like a top 10 song. They were like selling out like 3,000 seat venues, and in America playing in front of like 300 people, you know? And Zebrahead had the same phenomenon, like you said, in Japan. So like, we were good friends with Zebrahead and we were good friends with Bowling for Soup. So it was kind of like to see our friend Zebrahead become famous in Japan, and then to see our friends Bowling for Soup become famous in England. It was awesome because it gave you hope that even if you didn't get big in America, does that make sense? Like maybe some country would just fall in love, you know?
It's crazy that Zebrahead got a very huge fan base here in Germany, and Bowling for Soup has not so a big fan base. This is crazy for me. And yes, but you are on the Bowling for Soup train.
After Zebrahead got big in Japan, a couple years later, they started to do very well in Germany, and they were playing like a lot of the festivals. They were like on every festival. And our dream was to get big in Germany because you guys are the kings of the festivals. Like when summer comes in Germany, every damn weekend there's a rock fest somewhere, you know? So we were always really jealous of Zebrahead because we were like, man, they're not even playing small little crappy clubs. They're playing these big rock concerts. And those are the real fun ones for bands like us to play, you know?
Germany is like every region has like their festival. And it's a bit like to show, hey, we have the better festival. And that's why I like to make it bigger and to show, hey, our region, we have better bands than you.
Yeah. Now, there's a band, and this is random. They're not a pop punk band, but the first band I ever saw when I was a little kid. They were real big in the 1980s, and I went to the show when I was like a kindergartner. I was a little boy. My dad took me. I barely remember it, but it's still the first band I ever saw. They got big in Germany, and to this day, they still go over there, and they'll play like a month of shows. Now, this is a much, much older band, but have you ever heard of a band called The Hooters?
I hear from it, but I can count any song.
I only know the restaurant.
Listen to the song And We Danced. It's literally like if there was a pop punk song in the 1980s, it's not pop punk, but it's that catchy. It's and they were a huge influence on me. So they became really big in Germany, and to this day, I mean, they're old guys, but they still go over there every summer and play a couple festivals. I mean, this is like 80s rock kind of stuff, you know, but that was always the dream. And our friends Bloodhound Gang got real big in Germany too, you know?
Even Jaret lives in Germany.
It didn't happen for us. We toured Germany twice. Once was with Real Big Fish, and then the other time we did like 3 shows with Bowling for Soup. So we've probably only played like 15 shows in Germany. But you know, it just didn't connect for us there, you know.
I didn't found any video which was live in Germany with you, but the nearest was Paris. This is for me just 200 kilometers or something else. Also, it's near. You have to come to Germany back, but yes, it's a crazy time at the moment. We should speak about the other thing.
Our festivals are not so there.
Yeah, well, listen, you guys know anybody at those festivals, or you can bring us over. Trust me, we don't need to get paid. We just need a plane ticket. That's kind of the Army of Freshmen motto, you know. Like, if you can cover the trip, we'll come rock. You don't have to give us a penny. Just get the airplane flights, you know.
Yes, this would be great. Jaret says in the podcast with us, when a big festival want Bowling for Soup, they will come. And then they can organize a tour around this place, but as a solo tour is not rentable. Not.
It's not financially successful often. Because it's like they need like the big festival to get the money, and then they're like, okay, now we're in Germany, so let's say we're in Berlin, and then they're like, okay, we cover here, here, and here.
100%, yeah. And you're saying that for most bands, right? That's kind of like how it works, right? Like, it's hard. Are you saying that for every band? Like, it's hard to tour Germany. You need a festival to pay to help do the other shows?
Or you are a superhead and got a room with all your instruments and guitars, and then you came to Germany just as a people and take the instruments and go on tour in Germany.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, well, keep us posted. If you got an opportunity for us, you know how to find me.
I get your call.
We can ask Superhead. Maybe they can take you to Germany.
I would love that. We've had the pleasure of playing with them in England a lot. We've done some tours with Zebrahead in England, but they would do that at the end. So they'd go over to Germany and be like, "Man, Germany was awesome. The shows were great." And then we're playing like a small club in England, and we're like, "Hey guys, let's flip it next time. Why don't you take us to Germany instead of England?" You know. So.
Yeah. Good old times. Good old times. But the current time, 3 new songs. Can we expect an album or something else from you?
Yeah, man. Well, I'll give you some breaking news. Literally, nobody at all knows this. I'll tell you guys because we don't do a lot of interviews anymore. So you get the scoop. We are doing. So we did 3 new songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did 3 new songs. Just to see what it was like to record some new music, and it was a great experience. We've written some more. We were planning on releasing it was basically like a series of EPs, like 3 at a time. You know what I mean? Like 4 EPs, because that's what people are doing now. Like nobody's listening to whole records, right? So we were going to do 3 songs, another 3 songs, release them this summer, and then another 3 songs, release them in the fall. Here's the problem. The pandemic hit. COVID-19 happened. So right before our drummer was going to fly out to record the next batch of songs, this hit. So he canceled his flight. And as you guys know, nothing's changed. It's only gotten worse. So we have not been able to record those songs. So check out what we did. I'm letting you guys know this is the secret. Me, Aaron, Kai, and Owen, which is 4 of the Army of Freshmen guys. During the quarantine here in America, where we were like locked up for a while, we wrote a children's music record, like music for little kids.
Teenage Dragonfly?
Very proud of it. And check this out. We recorded it. We literally just got finished recording a complete children's record. Do you know Linus from Hollywood? He's produced some of the Bowling for Soup stuff. He produced the record, and we are not going to put it out under Army of Freshmen. Because even though it's pretty much Army of Freshmen, right? We didn't want to be, I guess the word is pigeonholed. I don't know if you have that phrase in Germany. Like, we didn't want people to think that it was going to have a certain style or sound. Does that make sense? Like, we wanted an open mind. We wanted somebody to listen to this and not be influenced by Army of Freshmen. Because if we put it out as Army of Freshmen, a couple hundred Army of Freshmen fans will get it, and it will get to no one else. So we wanted a real fresh start on it. We didn't want somebody to judge it off of Army of Freshmen pop punk sound. We wanted somebody to hear it completely new. So that'll be coming out either end of this year or early next year. But I think we're going to try and do like a little online kids show with it. Like we're going to try and create like a whole universe. And we haven't released the name yet because we're trying to get the trademark, but it'll have its own name. It'll have a little YouTube show, but it'll be like a 20-song kids record. And some of the songs I think are incredible. Different styles of music. One song's a pop punk song. One song's a folk song. One song's but the theme song is just a classic, catchy Army of Freshmen, like a Phineas and Ferb thing. You know what I mean? Like a 1-minute rocker. So there you go. You guys got the scoop. Army of Freshmen has made a kids record coming out early next year, but it will not be under the name Army of Freshmen. It'll be a completely new project,
Maintenance is new stuff. Is this with 3 voices and the same instruments, or is this something completely new?
Completely new. All different stuff. A few of the songs will sound like Army of Freshmen, but honestly, like there's a folk song, there's a real soft ballad, there's a punk song, there's like a country song. It's kids music, so you make it very, very diverse, you know, like every song, and it's all about growing up. So it's not like nursery rhyme stuff. You know how sometimes you say kids music and it's like, you know, baby shark, 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 baby shark. It's not that. It's like there's a song about your first day at school. There's a song about getting the training wheels off your bike. There's a song about having a little baby brother. It's all about experiences that a little kid would have. So I'm actually really, really excited about it. And this is my prediction. You ready? All those years of Army of Freshmen, 20 years of touring and busting our butt and not making any money and just doing it for the love of it, right? Watch this kids record be more successful than anything that Army of Freshmen put out, you know? That'll be my luck. I'll spend my whole life doing music, having no financial success, and then I'll be able to pay the bills because I wrote a couple songs about going to school, you know?
I'm excited, and when it's official and you got stuff, we will share it, of course. Maybe we reach some German fans. We try our very best.
I'll come back on and we'll talk about it in depth. We'll talk about the whole project. Yeah,
we can do this, of course, because I like the Army of Freshmen sound. Of course, this first album too with the horns.
Oh, you found that?
Yes, you.
So that was our demo. We did a demo. Like a lot of bands do a demo, and the problem that we did, that every band does, is we wanted to release it. We were young. We were like 18-year-old kids. So we were like, we got to release it. We got to print it up. We got to have art, because that's what you want. You want to like emulate the bands that you like. The problem is, right after we printed it up and made it, we listened to it, and we realized we never should have released this, you know? It was like, it was way too late. So now that's like a little collector's item, you know, we found some copies and we put them online, but oh my God, I listened to that and I want to start crying. I mean, I sound like a little whiny 16-year-old, you know, but that's what we came from, you know, like the latter stuff. We are a band that I like to think grew. I really do believe if you listen to our whole history, you get that Ribcage Radio demo and you see, oh man, what's going on here? This is kids messing around, learning their instruments. And I really did feel like every record got a little, just we got better at what we did. I don't like to use the word mature, you know, because we always wanted to make fun music, but I think we got better at making, like our last 3 releases, I think, are significantly better than our first 3. And I'm proud of that. I feel like we went in the right direction. There's a lot of bands, they don't have that, right?
I Separate with the Yellow album. You hear the sound. Separate with the Yellow album. You hear the sound. It was his first album, but not very released. More than a demo, like you. And anyway, it is great. Like the Ribian. It's completely cool to get albums when you're a fan of a band. You want to hear everything if it is possible.
Like it's cool to see. Like I'm the same way. Like I'm a collector. You know, if there's a band I love, even if it sounds like crap, I still want to hear it because I want to see, oh, where did this band come from? Like what? Okay, I heard the big hit song on the radio, but how did they get there? What was the first demo like? Like if you're a music fan, you can appreciate that growth. If you're not a big fan of the band, then you're like, why am I listening to this old crap? You know what I mean? But you know, the journey that artists take is always interesting to watch, and sometimes it doesn't go well. I mean, let's be honest, most of my favorite bands, I like their earlier records more than their later records. So the one thing that I am proud of, I think if you listen to the last 2 Army of Freshmen records, Happy to Be Alive, the Close Encounter EP, and Above the Atmosphere, I think that they're better records than Ribcage Radio and our self-titled record and Beg, Borrow, Steal. Just in terms of quality, does that make sense? Like we got better at writing songs. We got better at performing. You know, I figured out my sound vocally because I'm not a great singer, and early on I didn't kind of know how to do it. But then when I got older, I was like, you know what? I have this character, a certain style that now I figured out how it works. If that makes sense, you know. So, you know, I like the growth. It's fun to see where bands go. However, and I won't name any bands because it's probably bands that you and I both listen to or are friends with. You do see a lot of bands that now are just making music just to kind of, they're making records just to kind of make a few bucks.
Yes.
Like they're just shitting them out and you're just like, yo, I love this band, but this record just, it's not nearly as good as the old stuff. I feel like we're in this arms race now to just, you got to put out tons of music. You got to put out tons of music. I'd rather wait 2 years and get a record that I love than get like 2 records that like aren't near, like it's almost like they hurt the reputation of the band. You know what I mean? Like where you get I'm and I don't want to name any bands, but I'm thinking about some real famous bands here where you're just like,
Green Day,
dude, like we love. What did you say?
Green Day, maybe.
Yeah.
I was thinking West Against.
Okay.
So-
I'll throw one. Like I think like Blink 182. You know, like they have those 2 records to me that are just like pop punk masterpieces. But these days it seems like they're trying to do something different. But I think they've gotten away from what makes them great. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, you know.
I like the last 3 albums from Blink. The last with Tom and the new with Matt Skiba. I think.
Now, I didn't dislike them. I just don't think they're as
good as she was. You mean?
Yeah. Here's a perfect example. I shouldn't have said Blink. Weezer. The first Weezer record is one of my favorite records of all time. If you had to fucking drop me in a casket and throw 10 records in there so my body could listen to them under the ground, Weezer Blue Album would be in there. It's such a major influence on my personal life. And then it just kind of seemed that they put out all this stuff. They put out so much music, but it's like they're just putting it out to put it out. Like, make me a great record. Don't make me a great like a shitty record with one good song. They're an extreme example for me. I just feel like they've gotten so far away of how good they were. But I mean, there's a lot of bands we can talk about that. You know.
Little thing, when you are in the case, what would you take? A CD player, a Walkman, or an iPhone just with music?
That's a great question. I think I would bring a record player, right? So I could like keep it real and just have the actual physical records, you know. But if I was trying to listen to a shitload of music, obviously I'd want to bring a phone, you know, because everything's changed. But I'm old school. I still like feeling the records and collecting them in stores. So I'll put a record player in there.
Oh, nice choice. So from your early times, I saw a lot of live music, and for this time I changed to the German language for a moment. Ich würde sagen, jetzt machen wir es. Chris, I don't know if you remember to this, but in 2003, on the 7th June, on a live concert in Oakland in the Skyline Studios, you said, "This is our gang sign." Is this still our gang sign, or do you got a new gang sign?
Man, I can't believe you. Man, you guys dig deep, dude. You guys are dangerous. I mean, you're finding old stuff. Yeah, I guess I don't have a new gang sign. That was that was a joke back in the day. But dude, that particular concert you talk about, it's the one I'm thinking about. There was an amazing pop punk scene in the Oakland area, the San Francisco area. We're not from there. We're Southern California. But we were kind of honorary guests up there. The scene up there kind of took us in and put us on a lot of shows. And there was this awesome venue called Music Cast, and bands like the Matches came from there. You guys froze for a sec. I was saying up in San Francisco, like you had the Matches. There was a band called the KGB that are amazing that kind of been forgotten about. There was a band called Solomite. Like, there was a cool period in the early 2000s in America where different cities had like pop punk scenes, and there'd be more than one band, right? Mm-hmm. And it seemed like every city had a band that would get big, if that makes sense. You know, like every little scene would have the one band that would do really well. But what was cool back then, man, is you would swap shows. You would find bands like yourself in another city, and somebody would contact me and say, "Hey, we're going on tour. We're coming to Ventura. Can we do a show with you?" And I would say, "Yes, but can we do a show with you when we go on tour in San Francisco?" And there was this amazing community, and that's what I miss a lot. The community doesn't exist like that anymore between bands. Like, there were indie promoters, so you would go to a town that you've never been to before. You'd play with 3 bands that were your sound. There would be somebody that would take pictures. There'd be like a zine interview there. Like the music scene, and especially like the indie pop punk scene, was amazing. It was like, it felt like the whole country just had bands and vans driving around town to town and swapping shows. And I mean, there was no GPS yet, you know, guys were printing out directions before they go on tour. And it was a very, very, for me, magical time in music, because there were so many bands that were like unified, like, hey, we're going to try and get big, and we're going to try and get you big. And, you know, we'll switch shows. And then you started to see the bands that would get big, you know, like all of a sudden you'd see, Fall Out Boy just got big, or you know, I'm just naming different random bands from different scenes, and they would go to the label. Then suddenly you weren't playing shows with them anymore. Suddenly you weren't swapping shows. They weren't doing the indie shows anymore. They had a booking agent, and you saw the scene get bigger, but it's almost like it didn't take care of itself. It didn't foster younger bands as much. Does that make sense? Like the bands that got big kind of didn't. They kind of almost didn't give back, if that makes sense, you know? Like, I think they could have done a better job at bringing out smaller, unknown bands to tour with them. I'm not saying get them a record deal, right? But, like, if you were from Chicago and you got huge, you should have brought out bands from Chicago that you were friends with when you went on tour. Instead, with the agents and the labels, they would make the big bands play with each other. And I know why. I mean, it's to bring more people to the concert. But
more money.
I think that was one of the things that sort of hurt the scene. Then taste changed in music a lot. As you know, a lot of the electronic music started getting a lot bigger. Kids weren't into bands as much. The internet got bigger. People had more time to do their own personal stuff on the internet than follow bands on MySpace, you know? So there was a real seismic shift that kind of changed the music industry a lot. And then, of course, downloading and streaming. Not to say there's still not great bands happening, and there were great bands even when things were changing, but there was that beautiful period of like 2000, I'm going to say to like 2007, where it was just awesome. I mean, like everybody was in a band, everybody was helping each other, everybody was touring. Like it was a wonderful time to be in a pop punk band in America.
It was your peak.
Yeah, it was a peak, absolutely.
Chris, you speak a lot about music, but only about your music. The funny thing is, I read you are the producer or writer of High School Never Ends, the music video. How did came it?
Okay. I want to be very clear because I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. I wrote what they call the treatment for the video. The treatment is the idea of the video. Does that make sense? I did not direct the video. A great guy named Frank Bourne did that. Obviously, I didn't write the song. Everybody knows that. Amazing song by Bowling for Soup and the late Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne. I literally just had an idea for the video. So I wrote the idea out, and then I sent it to Jaret. And I think there was a couple ideas floating around, and they ended up using my idea. So I can say that I came up with the concept for the video. How about that? That's the fair word to say. It was my idea. But it's funny, a lot of people don't know that. Like, that kind of got, like, forgotten in time. But what was so awesome is when they filmed it, those guys were kind enough to have us in the video. So we actually have a little guest appearance in the video. If you watch it, you see us for a few seconds. And the little kid at the beginning of the video is wearing an Army of Freshmen shirt. So Bowling for Soup did so much for Army of Freshmen, and I love that band from the bottom of my heart. They are special people. They're a special band. But whenever I was just telling you guys about how a lot of bands didn't help out the younger bands, I was saying, like, you know, they didn't do a good job of that. Bowling for Soup is the exception. Jaret literally helped Army of Freshmen have some of the great experiences that we did single-handedly, man. We did a couple shows with them and met them on Warped Tour, hit it off, exchanged numbers. They were doing a tour. This is around the time that Girl, the Bad Guys won. And I called him and I said, dude, we're doing this small tour, but we're going to be in the same city as you. Please, 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 is there any way we can come and play on your show? Phil, this is a fucking true story. Any band on earth would say, no, the tour's booked. We don't owe you anything. Jaret called his agent and asked if we could play 3 shows on the tour. They squeezed us on to 3 shows, and we got along so well, and we had such a good time that they literally, it's a true story, I remember sitting backstage. It was they gave us like 5 shows. It was the last night we were in Pittsburgh, and Jaret goes, you know what? We're gonna kidnap you guys. Cancel your little tiny tour. We were playing in front of nobody, you know, at bars. You're gonna come and you're gonna finish the tour with us. You're gonna do the next 2 weeks with us. That was an act of kindness that cannot be repaid. It was above and beyond. It was one of the most amazing things anybody's ever done for our band. And he kept hooking us up. I mean, Jaret literally gave Army of Freshmen so many opportunities. So I'll take a bullet for Bowling for Soup. Sometimes people talk shit on them, you know, just like, oh man, like their songs are cheesy. I'm like, fuck you. Those are great songs, amazing songwriting, amazing performances, and wonderful people. Like, what band would do that? What band would take a small unknown band and literally let them go on the whole tour with them? Their manager didn't think it was a good idea. Their agent didn't think it was a good idea, but they thought that it was the right thing to do because they saw how hard we work. So I am when Bowling for Soup comes into conversation, I am a hardcore fan, and I love those guys dearly, and they are an example of what I think a lot of bands didn't do. Bands got greedy and they only cared about themselves. They were the exception. And if more bands would have been like Bowling for Soup, I think you would have had more success stories like Army of Freshmen, because a lot of these smaller bands would have been given opportunities that they didn't have. So when the scene fell apart, it was like there was no place to play. There were no more promoters. There were no VFW hall shows. And all these bands kind of just went off into the distance. Whereas if the bigger bands would have took care of them, maybe, you know, the scene would have been a little better. And listen, I know the scene kept going and new bands came up and, you know, bands that were much younger than us. But like you said, the peak of it, the glory days of pop punk were that early 2000s. I mean, there's still great bands, but the unity isn't there anymore. You know, you felt like back in the day you could go to a mall in America and you knew the people that listen to pop punk. You could see the person wearing the Blink shirt, the guy wearing the Green Day hat. It was like, you know, there was unity there. There was like a legitimate, like, oh, you listen to that type of music? I listen to that type of music too. You wanted to discover new bands. You wanted to go to the show early to see this new band, Army of Freshmen, because somebody told you good things about them. Maybe they sucked and you didn't like them, but you still at least wanted to check them out. And I used to just love trying to, you know, be the first band on a show and steal the show, put on the best show possible. So we left with new fans. And that was, you know, some of the best times of my life doing that type of touring. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And again, occasionally we still do some stuff, but it's just different. We're older, guys got houses and kids, you know, and it's wonderful. Life's wonderful. But, you know, when I talk to guys like you that understand that period of time, it's fun to reminisce, you know, because for me, that was my college. You know, that was my glory days of being like a young man and just going for it. And I tell people, all of my dreams came true. Every dream that I had came true, with the exception of, honestly, is being able to make a living doing music. My dream was to be able to pay the bills making music. That never happened. But I got to play with some of my favorite bands. I got to tour the world. I got to play big festivals like we already talked about. So I feel like I had a very, very successful music career. Like, even though, like, you know, we have a very small fan base and a lot of people actually kind of forgot about us, that's okay because of the experiences that we got to have. Because, you know, you can't take money with you when you go. You know, all you have when you're laying in that bed when you're dying is those memories of the life that you led. You don't sit there and lay in bed and say, man, it was great making all that money. You say it was great going to this place. It was great being in love. It was a great having a kid. It was a great having friends. It was great going on these trips. I mean, those are the things that define who you are. So I feel very blessed that way. But I wouldn't lie. If something came up where I was able to make money doing music, I'd be all for it, you know? So that's why I'm hoping. That's why I'm hoping the kids record. Maybe that's the thing, man. That's what I've been waiting for, Phil. I've been waiting to make music for children, you know? So,
yes.
And a lot of people thought Army of Freshmen stuff was actually very poppy and almost very kid-friendly. Like, we would have, like, little kids that could go to our show and like it, even though it wasn't meant for them. So maybe that was our calling, man. Maybe we missed the boat. I'll be like the next, like, Raffi, you know? I'll go bald, get a Hawaiian shirt, sing Baby Beluga. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna rule.
And you can say some dudes from Germany know you too because you made music.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the cool stuff. But
that's why I'll tell you, when you contacted me, it was cool because where you were from, like if it was from England, we get requests there or whatever. But it was cool that it was from Germany, and like I said, we only played 15 shows there. So I forwarded it to all the guys, and I said, check this out, man. We got an interview request from Germany, and they thought that was cool because of where you were from. Like if you were like in New Jersey, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, who gives a shit, but it's like, oh, it's so far away,
I didn't see this show from Army of Freshmen at the moment, but I want to see a show. And maybe it's not possible to get this here in Germany. Maybe when I'm in America, I will came to you, knock to your door and say, Chris, I want to see a show from the Army of Freshmen now or now.
Okay, good. Yeah, we can definitely do that, and then I'll invite you in. I'll sit you down on the couch. I'll try and distract you with a nice TV show, and I'll run in the other room and call the police and be like, "There's this crazy dude from Germany that's just busted in my house."
You would do us a favor.
Yeah, of course.
Well, listen, if you make it to California, obviously that goes without saying. We'll definitely go get lunch. It'd be great to hang out.
If Corona is not happen, I see with a friend. I thought about to go to the WrestleMania in Los Angeles. Then it would be happen, but no, yeah. We say no. We didn't do this because Corona is here, and maybe when Trump gets president again, the land's blending.
Don't talk crazy. Don't talk crazy, man. We got to get rid of that guy as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, this Corona thing has been obviously it's just terrible. It's so strange. But it's interesting beyond obviously all the death, which is fucking horrible. We've been talking about death a lot on this podcast, but I blame that because you guys are so dark. We had a nice fun conversation. As soon as the sun went down behind you, everything got dark.
Yeah.
But is the travel factor. You forget how important it is. You forget how important it is to see new places, to meet new people. That human interaction and traveling somewhere, going somewhere different, man. For all of us, right? That has just been devastated. I mean, like from going to see WrestleMania in LA, or for a band going on tour, or for visiting somebody in another state. I mean, like, it's really weird. It's going to be interesting to see the psychological impact of people not knowing what it's like to go somewhere. Because correct me if I'm wrong, there's a travel ban. Like, I can't go to Germany right now. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Correct. International flights are mostly canceled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think like I'm literally not allowed. Like if I showed up in Germany, I don't know if I could get off the plane, right? Or would they try and, or are flights even coming from America to Germany?
No flights.
There you go. So I mean, what a weird to think that we would get to a point in our lives where something would happen where we would not be allowed to go. We have that freedom, America has a big problem with that, freedom. We can go wherever we want, and it's just so funny. It's like, people are having trouble with that in this country. Like they really, and you guys know this obviously, but I'm thinking like, fuck, like what if you were an international traveler? Like, the Army of Freshmen story, we would get that Germany festival, right? You guys would hook it up. Bill would work some magic. We'd get on this big ass fucking festival. We'd be all excited. We would get the call, February 1st, this summer you're coming to Germany, you're playing a big festival. And then Corona would hit, festival canceled, and we never get to go. So there's probably bands that are in that spot. Remember the story I told you about Japan, to wrap it all around? That's the best week of my life, right? Imagine if Corona would have hit that year, and I never would have experienced that. That poster that sits above my bathroom when you come to my house for the concert, and you have to take a pee, and you see that poster, that poster wouldn't exist. And I wonder how many people are being denied an amazing, important life experience. Forget music, but you know what I'm saying? Anything, which is really sad. I can't wait till there's a vaccine. I can't wait for people to start traveling again, and we can just, I don't know, go back to the human existence. It's not supposed to be this, I mean, like we should be talking in person at a show, not in 4 different places, I mean, so, I'm getting all philosophical, but I think it's going to have an impact on people. And will they go back? Will shows be as well attended, or will people get used to really not even going to shows? Like, live music was hurting. This was devastating. So either people are going to come back in droves because they missed the experience, or we'll have the opposite where they kind of, you know what I'm saying, kind of got used to not going to see bands. And then maybe nobody's going to shows. I mean, nobody's buying any fucking music. I mean, they're just streaming it and, you know, paying $10 a month and listening to 1,000 songs or listening to it for free on YouTube. What the hell is going to happen to that, man? Like, you know, record stores that were barely hanging on are going to be gone. Like, music will be absolutely affected by this, you know. I don't think there's any way around it. I mean, people have been devastated this year, you know.
Yeah, but what music is
Jesus.
Maybe music is dying. It's at the moment. Wait. It's dying just for. No. I try to make a new topic. Maybe when music is off. Okay, so it's better. It's better. Maybe when music is off, you can make movies on. And when we are at movies, we have to talk about the bet.
Love talking about the bet.
First of all, about maybe your movies, or way before. I read that you was on the crowd in the Rocky Balboa film.
Yes. So check this shit out. I'm a huge boxing fan. That's kind of one of my jobs outside.
Chris. Jan, I think Jan is excited.
Yeah, soon. Wait till you finish.
Okay. I'm a huge boxing fan. I love boxing. I'm involved in it. I actually manage a fighter. This weekend I'm going to some fights. Like I do some personal training. I do some amateur boxing. Long story, not for the podcast, right? But huge boxing's another. Music and boxing are probably the two big things in my life, you know. But also movies. So you had mentioned being an extra in one of the Rocky films. Check this out. They're making Rocky 6. I hear about it. They say they need extras for the crowd sequence in Las Vegas. I'm like, I'm not missing this. Rocky's my favorite movie of all time. My whole life, I wish that I could be an extra in a Rocky movie. I'm doing it. This is several years ago, right? I get a buddy to go with me. We literally fly out to Vegas. We get the pass to be in the crowd. I mean, there's thousands of people there, but we're in the crowd, right? So what they're doing is they're doing the crane shot where they take the camera and they go through each row, okay? And they literally say, listen, go nuts, freak out, like you're just totally into watching the fight, and we'll take the best shots, the best row. Does that make sense? And we'll use that to cut to in the movie. Now they're doing a ton of rows, but we've got a chance, man. You know what I mean? Like there's 10 rows, and if our row goes nuts, we'll be in it, okay? Check this out. My buddy, who was a story in himself, Kevin Mollick, he's no longer with us, God rest his soul, but he was a party animal. Kevin got crazy, Kevin partied. The night before, Kevin gets drunk as hell. Goes to a gentleman's club, staring at the naked girls, getting totally hammered, drunk, right? Okay? Kevin has been sitting in the crowd all day because you're waiting all day for them to get to your section, okay? Camera comes by. I'm like, Kevin, here we go. I get up, I'm cheering, Rocky. I'm screaming like I'm trying to sneak into the film. And the camera passes us. And I noticed that the cameraman had like a real kind of like shook his head, like kind of like, hey, we're not using that one, right? And I'm like, what? Thinking to myself, like they're on to the next row. And I'm like, why? We just totally rocked out. It was awesome. We were screaming. I look over. Kevin is passed out. He passed out from partying too hard. So imagine the camera going by and there's all these people screaming, and it cuts to one guy who's sitting there snoring in the middle of the big fight sequence. So basically, I love Kevin and I miss him, but I always held that against him that I didn't make the final cut of the Rocky movie because my buddy got drunk and passed out when the camera filmed us. So there's my sad story.
But you were in the crowd. They shot like two endings from Rocky Balboa. The one where he loses and the one where he wins.
Whoa. Why are you dropping all this hardcore Rocky knowledge? Are you a Rocky fan?
Hell yeah! Anyway, I even have like the collection with all movies and the 2 endings. So anyway, which ending do you prefer?
I am impressed beyond belief. A lot of people don't know that they shot 2 endings. Wow,
Yeah,
look at
I
you.
know that. Anyway, which one do you prefer? Because I was like, okay, in my heart I wanted him to win, of course. But
Yeah.
then I was like, come on, it's the end, he's an old man, and he fought against this really good young talent, and he lost like with honor.
No, you cut out. The last thing you said was, in my heart, I wanted him to.
So, in my heart, I wanted him to win because he was Rocky. But
Yes.
then I was like, he's an old man, and now he had like his last awesome fight. He lost, but he lost like with honor.
Yes. And
So-
that's how. See, that was the circle of the story, because in the
Yeah,
first
exactly.
movie, he lost with honor, like you said. Rocky was always about proving that you could do something impossible. Rocky was
Yeah.
never about winning. It was about achieving a goal that was thought to be
Mhm.
impossible. The first Rocky is the best movie ever made. I don't care what anybody says. People say Gone with the Wind. People say Citizen Kane. People say Shawshank Redemption. Fuck all that shit. Rocky 1 is the
Mhm.
greatest film ever made. Perfect movie.
And Sylvester Stallone, he even sold all his stuff to make this movie. And
Yeah,
the dog,
He
and the
demand,
dog,
imagine he
Yeah.
demanded to be in that, man. His personal story
and the dog was his dog, I
is
think.
very much his personal story is a Rocky story, because he had
totally.
nothing. And then the movie people said, we'll give you $1 million if you let someone else star in it.
Yeah, and he was like, no.
demanded to star in it. And look at that. He became
Mhm.
one of the biggest movie stars of
Yeah.
all time. And had he took that $1 million,
Yeah,
there would be no
Nothing.
Rambos, there'd be no Rockies. Unbelievable, man.
yeah.
I'm a big, but Rocky's I just adore the Rocky films. Yeah.
And the
You
best
want to hear
Rock-
something really nerdy? I'll give you something really nerdy. You'll trip out. There is a dude in Philadelphia who dresses up like Rocky, and you can pay to go on a tour, and he takes you to all the locations of the film sites.
Yeah, is he
You get to
running
go to
like the
Rocky's.
stairs?
Oh yeah.
And then with the
stairs-
music, Gunnar for
Yeah,
Heiner.
you
Awesome.
get to go to Rocky's house. He literally takes you around the city and shows you all these scenes from the movie. I went on that tour last year. It was the best tour I've ever been on in my life. I was like crying. I was like outside of his gym, like touching the wall and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was like sick, like people go to Mecca. That was like my Mecca. I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. So,
Can
but
you
listen,
punch
if you
like
come to
frozen meat?
America, if you come to America, we're going on that tour. I'm gonna take you on that. It's the
Okay.
coolest shit
I'm on.
ever, dude. It's the coolest shit ever. You're literally like, it's like he's real. Like you're literally like, there's his house, there's his wife's house. Like it's so awesome. And the dude dresses up like Rocky. So he kind of walks around and he takes you through the city to see all this stuff. And like people come up to him and like he's real, like, yo, Rock. And he's like, hey, yo, how you doing? So like they literally like think he's real there, dude. It's the coolest shit ever, man. It's so awesome.
Totally.
So anyway, so we'll wrap it up with the bet. So I talked about how the music industry kind of fell apart, right? And we really got sort of tidal waved. I was fried. I didn't know what to do with my life. And I always wanted to write a movie. I love films and whatnot. So I got with Aaron, the guitar player in the band, and we literally wrote a movie. We wrote a silly, simple, raunchy, old school, guy comedy with dirty jokes and profanity. The shit we grew up on and we loved, And literally, man, against all odds. You want to talk about Sylvester Stallone? It's the same situation, just with absolutely no money. But we literally found a way to make a full-length feature film. We got some of our wrestling heroes in it. Like, the story of making that movie, guys, is literally, that's a fucking real podcast. The things that we did to get that film made and actually make a real movie, not a short film. And it looks good. It looks good. Listen, I'm not saying it's a great movie, but for what it is, does that make sense? And for what we had to work with, it's a goddamn masterpiece. I mean, I defy anybody to try and make a full-length film on the budget that we had with some of the cameos that we got in it. It's the last appearance of Roddy Piper on film. We got Jake. We got, I put all these wrestlers because I love wrestlers. I mean, that movie is like our heart and soul. And you ready for this? I'll wrap up the whole conversation with this because it's totally our life and our story. Ready? I told you our Army of Freshmen was really just about to get big when all the financial stuff happened, right? Ready for this?
Yes.
We make the film, and it takes forever to finish. The post-production, we had run out of money. We were learning on the fly. Does that make sense? Like, that was not, we come from music, we don't come from film. So we're trying to get this thing made. It takes forever. When we filmed it in 2014, okay, several different places like video stores, remember the video stores? They were willing to buy it. They would buy small movies like our movie, okay, and they would put it in all the video stores, and you'd have enough money to make another movie and pay back your investor. Follow me here? You got this so far?
We're close.
It takes 2 years to get all the post-production and everything done, or like a year and a half. Guess what happened during that time? Every single video store across the world shut down. Videos were no more. DVDs were no more. Everything was digital. So here I am spending my whole life making music, and I get really good at it, and the music industry falls apart. So then I get into the film industry, right? Put my heart and soul into this movie. Literally, I'm in a position to get it in all the video stores and make a little bit of money. And by the time the film gets done, the film industry goes the way of the music industry. So my whole life story is doing what I love and not being able to pay the bills. So nobody saw the damn movie. I mean, it came out. It is on DVD. You can watch it like on Amazon Prime. But like Netflix had gotten big. Does that make sense? So they weren't really looking for small movies like mine. Netflix would have picked it up if it would have came out when we filmed it. Does that make sense? But it took so long to get it done. So we had an amazing premiere. We put it on a big screen in LA. You know, everybody came. There was a huge party. And, you know, that, again, is sort of, you know, if I'm trying to be positive about my life and my story is, I'm a guy who followed his dreams. He didn't follow the dollar signs. So you can never take that away from me, man. You go to my house, there is a poster of a movie that I co-wrote and that I made and I act in. And that's my pride and joy because I know the heart and soul that went into it. So you can't take that away from me. I know 1,000 people that wrote movies, but they never got them made, you know? And we've written another film. You know, we've written another movie called Wedding or Not. Aaron and I think it's amazing. We think it's a total step up. But with the pandemic right now, you can't raise money for film. I mean, movies aren't even going out in theaters. So, I mean, imagine like, hi, I'd like some money for a movie. We can't film it yet because of the pandemic. And when we film it, we can't put it out because there's no movie theaters. But can I have a lot of money?
Autokino, car cinema. Car cinema is raising now. But
pleasure talking to you, man. Is there you know, I got to take off in a few, but you know, just I really appreciate you guys keeping that type of music alive, and just your taste in it is just, it's awesome, man. It's inspirational, you know. I mean, there's a lot of great bands that came from that scene that are still making that type of music that people don't know about, and I think you guys do a good job of trying to educate people on the bands that are out there. So I have nothing but respect for you guys doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I got questions, a lot of questions. You're speaking about Wedding or Not, and then you in an interview you said it's not a typical boy story. It's time for a girl's.
What you're saying there, brother?
You say in interview it's The Wedding or Not is more a girl film, like the first film was more a boy film. So
100%. Yeah, but
wait. And my question. Will we see Alexa Bliss in this film?
Okay, no.
you know that Jaret's got that connection, so you know it's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, we may stay away from the wrestlers on this one. You know, that was awesome, and it really helped get the movie attention with the wrestling community. But this may be a film that we stay away from the wrestlers. But you know, at the same time, those guys bring a lot of eyeballs to the project. A lot of wrestling fans. Like the movie was like in the top 20 most downloaded films. Sorry, Pirate Bay. It was one of the top 20 most stolen films the week it came out because wrestling fans steal everything, you know. So a lot of people did see the film, but nobody paid for it.
I see the film on the UK Amazon with a program because in Germany you cannot see this movie on Amazon Prime, and this is sad. And you cannot buy it. It's in the Amazon UK store, but not in the Amazon Germany store. This is sad.
Well, hey, you can always, email me and buy a DVD off me, and I can send it to you. You just got to be able to watch it in one of those like multi-region players, you know.
Let's talk about this after the podcast. But this is a question for after the podcast. Yes, this is true. But the bet, you got a trailer with Zebrahead. My question: why is Zebrahead not in the bet?
Notice that, huh? Man, nothing gets by you guys, man. You guys pick up on everything. Yeah, Zebrahead was cool enough to let us use one of their songs for the trailer, and a lot of great. We were able to really utilize some of our musical connections. You know what I mean? Which was neat. We had a lot of like friends, bands, music in there. There's a Punchline song in there. There's a Punchline song in there. There's a Zebrahead song in there. The KGB, who I mentioned earlier, obviously 1 or 2 Army of Freshmen songs, and we wrote some original comedy songs. One of the things I'm most bummed about the bet, a lot of people didn't get to see it, but there is a soundtrack on Spotify.
Yes, I hear it.
There are original comedy songs, man. I am really proud of them. We wrote like a strip club song, and it's called "Dollar in Her Butt." I think it's hilarious. And then we also did a dance, like a Euro trash dance song, like something that you'd hear in a techno club in Germany, you know. So if you get a chance, go on Spotify and find the Bet soundtrack and listen to Sneaky Beach.
I know it,
Which
and
is the name
I like it.
Sneaky Beach is the Euro trash song, and then Dala in Her Butt is the fake gangster rap song. We're really proud of them. We think they're really funny, and I really think a lot of people would have enjoyed the film if they saw it. But what's cool about film, it's there forever, man. Maybe somebody discovers it in a couple years, and it becomes a lost comedy classic. You know.
Yes, I like the soundtrack very much. It's the typical pop punk stuff which you got in a teen movie.
Yeah.
And this is what I like. I like the American Pie movies about her film, and yes, of course, of the story.
Yeah, the story.
It's a poor man's American Pie. It's a poor man's American Pie. You know?
Also, I like it. No, if you got a little story which people don't hear yet, I only know this story about Roddy Piper and how you get close friends.
Yeah. So, man, that guy, not only was he a legend in wrestling, not only was he a great actor, he was a good man. He was a good person. Remember I was talking about Jaret, how he went out of his way to help people? Roddy Piper, like that. Roddy Piper did not have to do our film. It was way too small. It was probably stupid for him to even think about doing a movie, but I emailed him. He emailed me back. I asked if I could take him out to lunch next time he's in LA. He contacted me on the phone. I'm freaking out. I'm talking to one of my heroes. And he literally met with me for lunch, asked me about the film. We hit it off immediately. We were laughing. We were both Tom Waits fans. He listened to me and said, I think it's something that I'd be willing to do. And guys, you got to understand, he did not have to do that. It was a small film. I was unknown. But he saw that passion in me, I think he had about life. And he was willing to do that. It meant the world. He was supposed to have a bigger part in the film. He was supposed to have Jake the Snake's part. But what happened was he ultimately got called back to do something for WWE the week we were filming. Mm-hmm. We lost him. I was devastated. But he, ready for this, how cool he was? He contacted DDP and basically gave him a thumbs up, like, Chris is a good guy. This is a real film. You should do it. DDP led to getting Jake, right? And then Roddy called to see how the film was doing. We were filming. He said, how's it going? I said, Roddy, we miss you. It's going great. Thank you for your help. I said, is there any way on earth you would come down for like an hour and just do a cameo? A cameo, not even a part. Just come on screen for a few seconds. And you know what? He said, yeah. And I went down and I picked him up. We rode in the car together. We rode in the car back. He's in my crappy little Camry. We laughed. We bonded. We had the most wonderful. We were stuck in traffic, massive LA traffic. It was a Friday night, 5 o'clock. And I was hanging out with my hero, just stuck in traffic, just talking about life. And it was wonderful. And we remained very good, not good friends, but acquaintances, And it was very upsetting when he passed away because obviously the film hadn't been released. Remember, I told you it took a long time to release it, and he had promised to help a lot. I mean, he was our secret weapon. Does that make sense? Like he was going to be the guy that goes out there and really promoted it for us. So that was tough, but who cares about the film? I mean, you lost such a good, wonderful human being. But what was really cool is his daughter came to the premiere, and Roddy's only in the film for 10 seconds, you know, because I told you it was a cameo. But when he came on, everybody started cheering, and his daughter got choked up, and that really meant a lot to me. You know, everybody that knew him knew what a great man he was. So, guys, I'm gonna leave you with that Roddy Piper story. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, same
Contact me anytime. Seriously, you got my email. Hit me up. We're gonna do that Rocky tour, and it's gonna be freaking awesome, man. So, but please, it's been a pleasure. I love what you guys do, and it's an honor to talk to you. Thanks for spending some time with me.
Can we make a little bet at the end?
Sure.
You made the bet. Your Skype name included the name bet. So I've got a bet, and the bet is about your cap. You're a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
I am. I come from New Jersey, the southern
Yes.
side, so that means I root for the Eagles. Yep.
Yes, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. We play together at this season in week 6.
Cut out.
And my bet is, I bet the Baltimore Ravens will beat the Eagles in the Lincoln Financial Field.
Well, guess what? That's my second favorite team.
Oh!
You're playing both sides.
So I won't be upset about that. I won't take that bet because I actually like both teams. That's my backup bet. But I will bet you. Here's the deal. Here's the bet. We'll do I'll give you a DVD copy of the bet if the Ravens win. Is that fair?
I would pay for it, but I take the bet.
We'll take the bet.
So,
Great.
Then we have masked betting against Jaret and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. Yeah,
So, okay.
I don't like the Steelers because I'm a Ravens fan.
This is great, Chris. You are so good. So now, finally, this was our today's episode. Chris, thank you for your time, and I hope we hear new stuff soon. And for our listeners, we hear us next week. Also, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Schreien noch lauter,